You can see we do have some worm friends hanging out at the top here. So we're gonna be sending them down to the bottom when we harvest using the light method. Hi y'all, Audrey with wormbucket.com here. So we've been getting a lot of questions on Facebook and YouTube about how to harvest the worm castings. How do you know they're ready, etc. So today I am going to go into all of that at detail, showing you the easiest way that we think to harvest your worm castings. So what I have today is an apron. Ladies, I know you have these cute aprons hanging around. You'll notice mine's dirty. This is my gardening apron, so fair warning to you now, we are gonna be getting into worm poop today. So if you've got that apron, now's a good time to put it on. I also have my gloves. For those of you who are feeling brave, gloves are not necessary. I'm not feeling that brave today, so I'm gonna be wearing the gloves, but you're welcome to do it barehanded or using whatever pair of gardening gloves or rubber gloves that you have around the house. I also have my rake, my hand trowel, and a bucket. You can use an aluminum pan, an extra pot that you have around the house. One thing you want to know about your worm castings is you want to plan ahead for your harvest. And the reason that is you want to make sure that you don't have any big chunks of food in your bucket or anything like that. So we want to give our worms plenty of time to eat everything in our bin. So we actually stopped feeding our worms about 10 days ago, knowing that we would be preparing to harvest this. Okay, so we're gonna dive into the bucket now. So just take off your lid here. And what you're gonna notice when you look inside is, first, deep breath. It smells just like great dirt in your garden. Also, you're not gonna see really a lot of worms on top. You're going to see what looks just to be like soil. So let me put on my gloves here and we'll get in the dirt or the poop. So this is what our castings look like. As you can see, they're pretty fluffy here. There's no pieces of food still left over. You can see we do have some worm friends hanging out at the top here, right here. So we're gonna be sending them down to the bottom when we harvest using the light method. So we're going to place our light source, in this case my ring light, directly over our bucket, which is gonna send the worms away from the top of the bucket and burrowing deep down into the bottom, which is gonna leave us with a top layer that is worm-free. We'll be able to scrape those castings away, and what we'll be left with is just a bottom level full of worms after we harvest our castings. So you can see now, if we give that top layer a little rake, I'm not seeing any worms at the top anymore. So from here, we're just gonna start harvesting. And what you're gonna do is slowly scrape off kind of the top layer. Just make sure that you're not getting any worms in it. And then we'll just put it in our bucket. You'll notice there's some eggshell fragments in there. Some people grind up the eggshells just to minimize the size of the chunks that are in there. We don't do that, so we do get some bigger chunks of eggshell left. They take a little bit longer to break down. So I'm just gonna keep going for that top layer, just scraping it off. And as you can see, these are what the castings are gonna look like. No smell, it smells just like fresh dirt. There are different ways that you can use your worm castings. You can use them directly on your plants, just like this, adding it into the soil. If you're doing any repotting, this is a great way to give your new plants a boost in their new homes. You can also make worm tea, which is great to spray on your plants.
Good. Oh man, does that have any worms in it? No.
If you're unsure if there's worms, say you get a big clump, you can just kind of look through, break it apart a little bit just to be sure there. You might see a few bugs in this bin. I do want to let you all know that this was one of the bins that we used outside. So if you add any outside matter, dry leaves or anything like that, you do have a bigger potential for getting some bugs or whatnot, but no need to worry. The worm bucket has a lid on it. We don't see any bugs in our house or anything like that. This is a live soil environment, so living things thrive in it. But again, it's not a big deal. You should see much less of that if you're exclusively using your worm bucket indoors and not introducing anything from outside. So again, just kind of fluffing these out gently with my rake here, kind of doing a preliminary check just to make sure that there's no worms in my castings. We look good. Everybody's moving down toward the bottom of the bucket, just as they should, using this light harvest method. Oh, I did get one straggler in here. So if that happens, just, you know, kind of put them to the side, cover them up, and we'll just move to the other side. So these are looking really great. I'm really excited to have a fresh batch of castings. There are a couple of plants that I am dying to put my castings on. So we're just gonna keep going here, further and further down, just trying to avoid those worm friends. And there's no need to, you know, harvest the whole bucket. If you're just looking to do a small harvest, you can stop whenever you'd like and add more food and continue the composting process. So really it's up to you how much of your worm castings you want to harvest at one time. Oop. Got this little guy right here. So you can see, for the most part, our light method has taken all of our worms and forced them down into the lower areas of our bin, leaving it perfectly easy to harvest our castings right from the top layer. All right, so again, I'm starting to see some worms here at this level. So if you see that, you might just want to fluff it up and let it set for a few minutes to let those worms travel down further in the bucket. If you're feeling frisky, you can use your hands to harvest your castings. Just get right down in there. It's easy. It's probably nice for the worms, you know, not using a rake or anything like that. So just continue to move down the bucket, harvesting and fluffing your castings, separating them out into your bucket. So far we've got a good half a bucket full of beautiful castings. So we're gonna keep going here. You can see where I haven't fluffed. It's more kind of the consistency of thick mud. So fluffing it either with your hands or the rake is gonna break it up and just make sure that you don't have any hidden worm friends hanging out for a ride in your castings. We are gonna be putting these back into our house plants. So for all of you people who love playing in the dirt as a kid, this is one way to get back to your childhood. Playing with the worms and the mud. We've got a nice bucket full of castings now. I'm quite proud of them. It's really cool to see your kitchen scraps go in and this beautiful black gold come out. So I'm getting to a point where it's a little bit tougher to get castings that don't have worms left in it, and that's because I'm getting to the bottom of my bin. You can see I'm getting to the perlite layer here at the bottom. So I'm gonna get just a few more scoops. All right, y'all, we just harvested all of our castings from our worm bucket. We've been feeding our worms 3 months now, all of our kitchen scraps, vegetable ends, cucumbers, watermelons, all that good stuff. And they have turned it into nature's black gold worm castings for us. And we're about to weigh our product to see how much 3 months yields us in worm castings. So here we go. 3.5 pounds of beautiful nature's black gold fertilizer. So there's so much that you can do with these worm castings. You can put it directly on your plants as an organic fertilizer, or you can make compost worm tea, which I'll be doing another follow-up video showing you exactly how to do that. So follow us for more content and that secret Burm's worm tea recipe.